Each week, nearly a dozen movies are released theatrically. 40 films a month, more than 400 a year. That's a plethora of cinema. Too much cinema. You'd have to be an addict to see all that, but don't fret. We've got you covered. This is CinemAddicts.
Hey everyone, what's up? It's a new episode, new week of CinemAddicts. This is CinemAddicts episode 333. We are covering movies that are coming out the week of Friday, February 27th, 2026. This is a very short episode because we only have a couple movies. We did Patreon. Eric and I just finished Patreon. We were waxing poetic about dudes left and right. Dudes the movie, not dudes in general. This is a family show. Eric and I can't be talking. Yeah, well, right. But there's a movie called Dudes. Was released in 1987.
We talk about people and their dudes. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing wrong with that. But there's nothing.
I mean, we're not Disney.
We're not. Well, very good. But
you talk about dudes. You're not gonna be on Earth. Anyway,
there's a movie called Dudes in 1987. We're covering the year 1987 for this month. This month being February, month of Patreon. 1987 featured Dudes, Moonstruck, and Delirium Photo of Joya. That was the assigned pick. But Eric and I moved that assigned pick over to our main Patreon episode because Bruce Perky has a review, his own review of Delirium Photo of Joya coming up very, very soon. And Bruce Perky will also have a review of this film called Mistress Dispeller, which is a new drop on Criterion. That's what Bruce Perky said. It was released on Criterion Channel this week. So check droppings. Criterion droppings. And usually the droppings are probably not the droppings that probably someone like regular average Joes like me and Eric would drop. When if it's Criterion, the droppings are probably what? Golden? What are they made of? Just full of pretentious, noxious fumes? I don't know. I think it's made in beautiful gold. Bunch of dude droppings. So the movies covered this week are Undercard and yes, Mistress Dispeller. That's not a new movie, but there's a film called Zeta and Operation Taco Gary. So it'll be a very quick episode because of our Patreon. But look, Bruce Perky has some very good insights on those two reviews. So you'll have a meaty enough episode for this installment of CinemAddicts. Eric, before we start, can I just get on? I know you're going to eventually get into Operation Taco Gary's because you did receive a good link. You did not receive a link earlier that worked, right, Eric?
That'll be. I'll rewind it next week.
Okay.
I literally just got the link like 10 minutes ago.
I'm a little bit depressed.
Well, I literally just got a working link. I got one a couple of days ago, and then I tried watching it last night and it didn't work. But we gotta get one. I will rewind it. Next week is the short version.
All right. I will say this. I am a little bit depressed. Eric is not covering it right now as we speak because of the screener link malfunction. Not his fault. Because Operation Taco Gary's is, I feel this in my bones. I feel it's an Eric Holmes movie. Here's a plot summary. Quote, two bros, Luke and Danny. Luke is played by Dustin Milligan. Danny's played by Simon Rex. They embark on a cross-country road trip that quickly devolves when they become involved in a global conspiracy. This is all you need to know. Luke.
Oh, so it's kind of like Dudes.
Kind of like Dudes, yeah. But Luke, played by Dustin Milligan, Luke has a new job on the horizon. So he's leaving his current domicile. He's going to the new job. But before he goes to the new job, he sees his estranged brother, Danny, played by Simon Rex. Danny is a type of sibling who is a little bit of a troubled and troubling sibling, meaning he has conspiracy theories left and right. He's a little bit too gregarious and very highly extroverted, wherein Luke is introverted, trying to be a straight, normal dude with a new job. He's trying to do the right thing. But then when you throw in his brother Danny into the mix, he's the type of person who can get you into a lot of trouble within a sort of a domino effect. Danny has that type of character where he'll do such outlandish things, it will get them from point A to point Z minus, okay? So what happens in Operation Taco Gary's, written and directed by Mikey K, who I think Eric Holmes is going to interview tomorrow being Friday, what ends up being a seemingly normal story about brothers at the beginning, because Danny, again played by Simon Rex, is so unpredictable, this movie becomes an unpredictable, likable, funny ride that I think will appeal to a lot of people who love their humor absurdist. Jason Biggs co-stars in this movie as Jason Biggs. Jason Biggs plays a more amoral, possibly evil side to himself in Operation Taco Gary's.
Oh, you mean like he's actually playing himself, not like Al Pacino's always playing Al Pacino?
No, he's just playing himself. Jason
Okay,
Biggs
I
as
got you.
Jason Biggs was interesting. There's comedian Arturo Castro. He plays the right-hand man of Jason Biggs. Jason Biggs has a very big presence in Operation Taco Gary's for nefarious reasons. There's also Brenda Song. She's in this movie. But for you two listeners and watchers, if you actually appreciate the humor or the charisma of Simon Rex, Simon Rex is playing. I don't know if you're a fan of Simon Rex, Eric, yes or no, but Simon Rex plays this character up to volume 500. It's a totally bonkers out there character, which is great. And then Dustin Milligan as Luke plays the straight man throughout most of this movie. So if you want an unpredictable road trip comedy that you think that you will never guess where it goes, the only way you'll guess or know is if I tell you the spoilers right now. Okay. I will say this. I interviewed Doug Jones last week, Doug Jones from The Shape of Water. He plays an alien in this movie. So there might be a little bit of an alien element to Operation Taco Gary's. Also, there's tacos in this movie because it's Operation Taco Gary's. There is a reason why this has that name. That establishment has a special power in the movie regarding good people, bad people, and where people congregate. And I will let the movie explain that by itself once you watch it. It's in theaters February 27th. It is one of the more unexpected films I've seen in years. And I have a feeling that a lot of people may not enjoy this humor. Eric, you and I were talking about Dudes just 20 minutes ago. It's
Everything you're saying, it reminds me of our conversation we had about Dudes in the Patreon.
I laughed audibly several times in this movie. There's so much jokes in this movie that you need to watch it. Eric was mentioning in our Patreon review that you need to watch Dudes 4 to 5 times to really appreciate it as far as getting the language and the
no.
the
What,
movie
what I'm
lines.
saying there is I got to watch it 4 or 5 times to remember the one-liners.
Right.
Usually when I watch a comedy once, as soon as I'm done, like I remember laughing, but every joke had left my head immediately. It's
Right.
just a matter of my terrible memory.
Right. Okay. Well, to add to what Eric just said regarding Dudes, I'm going to add to that with Operation Taco Gary's. I need to see this movie one more time because I remember really enjoying the film and laughing a bunch of times. I don't remember the actual movie lines because a lot of the situations goes by lickety split, and there's so much stuff going on that it gets to be overwhelming in a good way. So I know I'm just talking out of my you know what because this feels like a very confusing review. It's a very confusing movie in a good way. Operation Taco Gary's a movie that feels like it's out of left field. By the end, it has a surprising level of heart as well. And I was, yeah, because most of the movie, I'm on board. This is a cool movie. I'm all right with it. But then towards the end, it just smacks you with a little bit of truth to it. And yeah, I was gonna give Operation Taco Gary's 3.5 stars, but I'm giving it 4 stars. This is just a first-rate viewing experience for me. Not for everyone. I will say this, not for everyone. Acquired taste, but taste acquired by me. I really enjoyed Operation Taco Gary's. 4 stars in theaters February 27th. Again, Dustin
It's the
Milligan
boba
and
of
Simon Rex.
movies.
The bobas. Did you say boba because I'm Asian and I drink? Yeah. Huh? No, I'm kidding.
Is that an Asian drink? I don't know. I just
No,
thought it was
boba and Asian.
floaties in it.
No, you're right. No, I'm kidding. I love boba. Because I had boba. I have boba every day. I have rice. I drive a Honda Accord. I am basically every single Asian person, every Asian American thing that I'm feeling. Not even the overcards, all the undercards of all the things about being an Asian American. Boba, Honda Accord. I'm 54. I still look. A girl the other day, she was taking my order. She said, I look in my early 40s. I can pass, sort of, right, Eric? Maybe, possibly,
yeah.
45. Thank you, Eric. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Now, let's get to a movie that Eric and I did reviewed, okay? There is a movie called Undercard, and the only reason why Eric saw this movie, no disrespect to Undercard, was because he wanted to do me a solid, to do you guys a solid, and I think the strength of CinemAddicts is when 2 people are actually reviewing a movie. Eric couldn't get to Operation Hot Garage because of the screening link thing, so he went to Undercard. It's a boxing film starring comedian Wanda Sykes. Wanda Sykes
Yeah.
plays a former what? Yeah, Eric?
A former boxer. She when she got kind of I don't know, dismissed or whatever. She was in a drunk driving accident. She had an alcohol problem, and that kind of tanked her career after that. And then now, it's like current day. She's caretaking for her grandchild, I think, or her niece.
Her niece,
Okay,
because her sister passed on. Yes, very
and
good.
she's trying to reconnect with her son, who she's been estranged from because of her addictions.
Her
And
son is played
he's
by
kind
Bentley
of,
Green. He's a boxer too.
yeah, he's an up and coming boxer, and he doesn't want to have anything to do with her, mostly because he felt abandoned, and he seems to think that she's getting back in his life because it's like, oh, you smell money, and all of a sudden you come back to the, that sort of thing.
Does he not have a good point? He has a good point, right? Don't you think? Or how do you feel about that? His
A little bit, but I mean, I don't blame him, but I think he's misguided on why she's back. I think there's a little bit of that, but I don't know.
Mm.
Um,
Can I also mention there's Xavier Mills. He's an actor. He plays Cordell. He plays one of the boxers who No Mercy. That is the name of her name's Cheryl Stewart, but everyone calls her No Mercy. That is the Wanda
yeah.
Sykes character. So one of the other boxers that No Mercy has under her wing is this boxer named Cordell, played by Xavier Mills, and Cordell is a very talented boxer as well. So you have her possibly managing her son or to help training her son. You don't know. We're not going to say. And then there's also another boxer played by Xavier Mills as Cordell. It's a boxing movie. It's a family drama. Eric, what else? Are we
Uh,
missing something out on the plot?
I mean, it's kind of a little bit of a story about addiction, a
Mm-hmm.
story about like abandonment, a story about boxing, kind of riffing off of the Rocky thing a little bit.
Yeah, the movie's called
Um,
Undercard. It's about
get
underdogs, right,
back
Eric?
get back in the
Underdogs.
saddle sort of thing.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
and kind of doesn't really come together, unfortunately.
Oh, I'm sorry, my stupid DJ Osmo. It doesn't come together. What doesn't work about it for you?
I This movie felt a little too after school special to me. Like
Mm.
the dialogue between the characters, it was like a little one
And
of
I
two things needed to happen. Either A, they needed to cut a lot of this out and really focus on Wanda Sykes and her son, and then just excise everything else and just focus on this. Kind of like what they did with the wrestler. There wasn't like a lot of extraneous stuff going on. Or it needs to be longer and have a lot of these scenes time to breathe. Because this was really one thing after another, just kind of keeps happening almost too quickly that you
I
don't
agree
get
with
a
you.
chance to really sit in it.
Yeah.
And
It's very compressed. There's a lot of stuff
the
going on.
the dialogue was very not good in this. A lot of it
Mm.
was like platitudes and stuff you'd hear on greeting cards and whatnot. Which is unfortunate because I think this is supposed to be a vehicle for Wanda Sykes saying, "Hey, I can do dramatic acting now," and to her credit, she can.
She's
But I
good. She's
think,
good in this movie.
yeah, but the words coming out of her mouth are kind of not great, and so I think unfortunately people are going to watch this and kind of not take it as serious as Wanda Sykes may have liked, which is unfortunate because had this maybe had a better script. Um, Directions, you know, not going to push on the direction too much because like a lot of my problems with that have to do with like with the boxing scenes, for example. You can tell that the budget that they're stretching is starting to show. Um, that said, like if this was Wanda Sykes' coming out party for dramatic acting, I wish it were for a better movie because she's great in this. She's great in everything, and I have no doubt that she could, knock it out of the park in a dramatic role. But I worry that people are going to see this, and you know how when people see movies that are bad, and then say like, oh, the acting's bad too. It's like, well, no, Judd Nelson was great in Cybermutt. It's just Cybermutt wasn't a good movie, but he was great in it. I think
Mm,
people will not see Wanda Sykes for the way that she wants them to see her because the movie that's surrounding her is not that good.
mm. Well, I have a different reaction regarding Undercard. I liked it a little bit more than you did. I really enjoyed Wanda Sykes in the role.
Probably a lot more than it sounds
Oh, a lot
like.
more than you did? Yeah, well, I thought she was wonderful in the role. I thought the acting
I
all around.
just to be clear, completely agree with that.
Yeah, I thought the acting actually all around in Undercard was fine. It is, like Eric said, an indie film, so you could see the budget stretch, especially when we get to the third act, which is centers on a boxing match. Not going to mention who
You
the
can
partic
almost see like the crowd, the front row of the crowd, like when the camera moves,
right.
and
Yeah.
then oh wow, the same people are on this side too. On the
Right. And a lot of the drama itself, there's Rosalind Sanchez. She plays a possible love interest. She's a tattoo artist, and Rosalind Sanchez, great actress, and she plays a possible love interest to No Mercy. I enjoyed the character of No Mercy. Eric was mentioning about the screenplay problems. I didn't have as much, it didn't really hit me that much as far as I didn't think the writing was subpar. I thought the writing was fine. I thought everything was fine, but I will have to say there is a time compression element where one thing happens after the other, and it just seemed just a lot of stuff to take. That was a little bit of my complaint. But overall, I thought it was a solid drama. I was fine with it. I had an enjoyable time. I think the movie really works on the performance of Wanda Sykes and the character of No Mercy. Everything else, no disrespect to everything else, but everything else is secondary. And just based on Wanda Sykes' raw talent and what this movie had to say. I also like the way the boxing match ended towards the end of the film. And there are flaws in the movie when Eric talks about the
I would
writing.
say the final boxing match has the same issue that the rest of the movie does. That it doesn't. It's just too frantic, and not in a good way that you want in a fight, but
Mm,
like um it I don't know. It just has pacing problems, just in
pacing problems.
general.
All right. So finally, Undercard, in its defense, I'm not defending it, but a positive thing about Undercard, it did win the Audience Award for Best U.S. Narrative Feature at the Newport Beach Film Festival. Over at the St. Louis International Film Festival, it won Best Independent Film. Eric, final thought and rating on Undercard.
I want to see Wanda Sykes in a better movie, trying the same sort of thing. I know she can do it. I've seen her do it in this, but I just wish the movie surrounding her was better. It's probably two. It's actually probably a star and a half, but I'm giving it 2 stars just for her alone.
Okay. For me, I liked it a little bit more, actually a lot more than Eric. I'm giving it a mild recommend at 3 stars. Again, within independent film, you could see where the budget stretched, but I really enjoyed the performances, especially Wanda Sykes' work in Undercard. Thank you, Eric Holmes, for giving Undercard 2 stars. That was a generous 2 stars, even though at heart you're saying one
I
and a half,
took the
but two
hit.
stars. You took the hit. You took the hit. So Undercard in theaters Friday, February 27th. Tell us if you're going to watch it just because of Wanda Sykes, and maybe you might even like it more than me and more than Eric. And you might tell me and Eric to go family show F off. So if you do feel like
Darn
telling me and Eric,
tootin'.
yeah, if you said, "Hey, Eric and Greg, we love it more than you," and both of you guys can go F off and go to blah, 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 hit us up and tell us what you think of Undercard.
But
Finally, yes.
but regardless, he kind of mild recommendation on Undercard. I didn't like it, but I mean, I think we both agree. Wanda Sykes, like you put her in like a really like high-end drama with like a great screenplay. She's gonna knock it out of the. I mean, she knocked this out of the park, and this is not good. Imagine her like with a you know real budget, a
She's a
screenplay
great,
that
she's great.
was kind of went through. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine her? Rest in peace. If Sidney Lumet were alive and he had
Oh,
Wanda Sykes in the lead role, come on, right? Huh? Well, okay,
that can
Eric,
never happen. Stop teasing me.
I'm just saying, you're right, Eric. Maybe you gave this movie 2 stars, but Wanda Sykes is a powerhouse as an actress or actor, however you want to call her, as a thespian. She is so good, and I think Eric, at least you and I can agree, we want to see her in more dramatic roles,
Yes,
or
absolutely.
100%. She's great as a
Don't stop comedy though, 'cause she's funny too.
she's funny as bleep bleep, right? And she's really good. But I'm gonna put words in Eric's mouth. I'm sure Eric wasn't surprised at how good of an actor she is because of just the force of personality and the years of experience in television and on the stand-up scene. But this movie, whether it's 3 stars or 2 stars, it does showcase what she can do. And like Eric says, it'll showcase what she can do, in his opinion, in a better project. And I'm excited for that as well. All right, Eric, we're going to close this section of cinematics. It was a short show because, Eric, I think Bruce Perky has at least some stuff to say in a few moments. Patreon gets a little bit irky and all that stuff, and I still think we were able to cover some good stuff. And we're gonna have a rewind next week from you for Operation Taco Gary's. I'm excited for that rewind because you're gonna do the interview tomorrow. Santa Zeta, Eric. Slam Dance. It's done with Slam Dance.
Slam dunk, more like.
Oh boy, I love that. It's done with Slam Dance as far as screening on the festival. Here's the good news. Why should Eric view a movie that's not on the Slam? Because Slam Dance, there's no more screenings in Slam Dance, right? It's done. Everything's done in Slam Dance. Why? Well, there's something called the Slam Dance channel, Eric. And it's starting at February 24th. Oh, yeah. February 24th, it started screening on the Slam Dance channel. And Santa Zeta, which you're going to talk about in a few moments, screens on the Slam Dance channel. It's streaming as we speak, as of this recording, until March 4th. So, Eric, take us away. What is Santa Zeta about? Who's it directed by? Why should people see it?
Santa Zeta, the short version is Zoe. She's a social media influencer, does like TikTok videos, YouTube videos, whatever. And she just goes to different places and does different things. She's extremely popular, has a ton of followers. But what her followers and many people don't know is that she uses this as a cover because when she's not doing social media, she's hunting pedophiles. It's got a kind of Kill Bill kind of sort of setting where for each pedophile she's going after, they do the title or show a quick thing of the person, and then she'll go do her social media thing, which is kind of adds some light and fun to it. But it's got some dark subject matter too because the reason she's hunting pedophiles is because of her dead sister, who was raped and murdered, and so they have parts in the movie where it kind of cuts to this white room and she's looking at her dead sister and they're like talking to each other and she's kind of talking over the person she's going to do kind of how she's feeling about everything. And so her dead sister's kind of part kind of takes place as like when you're reading a book and there's narration and then they adapt the book into a movie, you can't really do the narration unless you're doing voiceover. This kind of takes that place with her talking to her sister. You kind of get inside of her head a little bit.
Does that device work?
Yes.
Does it work?
Yes.
Okay.
It works incredibly well. And
because it could work, it could really fail in different circumstances. It seems.
I agree, but here it works, and I think a lot of it has to do with the person playing the girl playing her sister.
And that is Kayn. Let me look it up for you. Kayn Okstoa, or here, let me.
That's Zoe. She's the main character.
Oh, you're talking about the young girl, right? Yeah, I wonder who the young girl is. Okay,
yeah,
interesting.
Darcy Struther, maybe.
Okay.
No,
nope.
That's Dorothy Struther's not that.
But it's one of the actresses, maybe. Okay, no worries.
Africa Gioran.
Okay,
Africa
cool.
Gioran.
Okay, cool.
I should have had all this ready to go, but I didn't. Anyway, so she's going around killing pedophiles. This is one of those movies that easily could have just been an absolute train wreck because of how they have to the Antonio Muñoz de Mesa, who wrote and directed this, the way he just continually moves back and forth between tone.
She's killing pedophiles and she's killing pedophiles. Remember, Eric, in different continents. So this is sort of a travelogue, right? It's one part of it takes place in Seoul. I don't know where it takes place, but it's not just set in one locale, right? So that
No, and that's just it. She's the social media person, so it's like, hey, I'm here in Italy or wherever she's at, and then so her social media videos are her excuse to be where she's at. and then so no one really tracks it or would expect someone like her to do that. Um,
Gory,
it
violent.
also yeah, it's violent. It also goes places. It goes places incredibly emotionally, and that's what I'm talking about with tone. Because like sometimes it's like real light and fun, and other times it's like, okay, we're leaning forward now. We're sitting the kids down to talk with them. Um, the ending of this, I'm not going to give it away here. The end of this was pitch perfect. It was like it was one of those endings that's kind of, and I think there's one thing that happens in the ending that might piss some people off,
Mm-hmm.
but if you take a step back and think about it for a second, it makes sense for the character.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that I'm not going to tell you what it is, but hopefully that entices you to go watch Santa Zeta, especially it's playing at the Slam Dance, the what do you say, the
It's
Slam Dance
done.
channel.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, Eric. It's streaming at the Slam
So
Dance channel right now.
the reason you want to watch this on the Slam Dance channel, I interviewed Antonio Munoz de Mesa. You'll watch that interview, you'll know that he's got certain scenes that there was a scene in LA by the Chinese theater with the stars. She's like
Right.
looking for Miley Cyrus's star only to find out she doesn't have one. Um, but I was asking him about like how they got all those shots. He's like, "Oh, we just kind of did it." And it was like, "Oh, so like what do you gotta do for that?" And he was like, well, hopefully the lawyers can figure this out because otherwise we might not be able to release this. So watch it on the Slam Dance channel because it might only be the only time you get to watch this. The
Right. Because
movie
you
might
won't.
disappear completely after that, or they might not get releases for some of the scenes that they did. So you may not like maybe you can watch a version of it this later. You will not see the version that I saw, or you likely won't see the version that I saw. And this movie's fantastic.
Eric, I don't want you to give me a movie comp where the ending matches with Santa Zeta, but do you have any movie comps within the world of Santa Zeta that if you like this, you might really get into Santa Zeta as far as to
Um,
pitch this movie to fellow cinephiles?
I'm trying to think of a movie that ended like in a real understated manner.
Mm,
It
maybe.
was like loud emotionally, I guess.
Mm, okay. Okay. Hmm.
I'm having trouble thinking of
Oh, no
one.
worries. Well, how about this? Is Santa Zeta, it's more than just a genre film because it's a genre film, meaning a surface genre
It's
film. There's
not
a
really a genre movie because it's got a bunch of genres. It's like calling Gremlins a genre movie. There's so many genres mixed in with it, and it does them all very well. That's hard to pinpoint. You can say, yeah, it's a horror movie, but it's also comedy, but it's also drama, but it's also a love story. Like it's all those things, and San Jose is no different. It's and that's the great thing about how this is put together is it manages to kind of juggle all those tones in there and still manage to come out fantastic. And then that
mm,
ending's just one of those endings where it's like it's not like a bold in your face ending, but it's just one of those perfect endings where it's like quiet, understated, but a character does a thing. And then I was just like,
wow.
you did it. Perfect dismount.
Do you see the career of Antonio Muñoz de Mesa skyrocketing after San Zeta, or
I hope so. In fact,
okay?
I believe they've done a number of movies prior to this, and
Mm.
I kind of need to watch all of them.
Okay, that is San Zeta. It was recently at the Slam Dance Film Festival, but now, as of this recording, get on that horse, Slam Dance channel, go see the streaming for this. Go see it on streaming. Go see San Zeta. Also, an added bonus to you guys. We'll put this, of course, up on our Cinematics Patreon first. But Eric forgot to mention this because Eric doesn't like to give himself credit. I'm going to give Eric 500 credits for this because he speaks to Antonio Munoz de Mesa about 5 or 6 minutes about the ending of Santa Zeta, which I, by the way, have not listened to yet because I want to see this movie. Right, Eric? You
Yes,
talked
yes,
spoilers. All right.
yeah.
So,
In fact, in the normal interview, you gave away a spoiler. We had to cut that out and
and
upload
I told
that
Eric I
this
didn't
morning.
want to do my job because I'm lazy. It already uploaded to YouTube. And Eric said, you know what? I'm gonna get Bruce Perky from the attic, and he's gonna come and he's gonna have your liver with a little bit of side of fava beans to it. And I said, okay, I'm scared of Bruce Perky. I'm scared of Bruce Perky. He threatened me with him, and I said, okay, I'll cut it out. So I did cut it out. Yes, Eric, I cut it out.
Santa Zeta, if I didn't say it, this is 6.9. This is early contender for uh best of the year. I mean, honestly, best of the year is probably going to be Project Hail Mary because I'm still excited as hell for that. But
I thought it was Psycho Killer, Eric. I thought that was your number one this year.
that was right there until I saw it, and then it wasn't anymore.
All right,
Dude,
well,
I will say, like, in my head, I've been thinking of Psycho Killer since I saw it. I'm like, I kind of want to watch it again.
uh,
I,
you,
I like I've seen it. I know that it disappointed me. It didn't live up to expectations. And now that's had time to kind of calm down. And now in my head, I'm thinking about, oh, that scene was cool. That scene was cool too. That scene wasn't as good as it could have been, but oh, I wouldn't mind
I
watching
bet
that.
you're gonna upscale it just by maybe a half a tick, just because it's at least enjoyable. Psycho Killer isn't in, and it's
Yeah.
not right. 0% on Rotten Tomatoes when it came out. Come on,
I
folks.
mean,
I mean,
it makes sense. It makes sense though, because like Psycho Killer had so much
oh,
potential.
all
Like
right, got it.
Psycho Killer could have been a 6.9 star, and it just wasn't, which broke my heart. But
Oh well, okay. Let's put it back to San
if
Jose.
nothing else, I want to watch that first half hour again.
Let's put that visual aesthetic back into from Psycho Killer to Santa Zeta with not too much of a budget. How was Antonio's shooting of Santa Zeta? Did it feel like an
I
indie
mean,
guerrilla style film? Did it look good? What do you think, Eric?
I mean, I think looking back, based on how he described how they shot certain things, I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And a lot of it is her, it's not found footage, um, because it's just her, YouTube channel or TikTok channel or whatever. But you get away with a lot when you have that as your main character. And then so when she's doing the pedophile hunting, she's not on TikTok anymore. Now we're in real movie mode, and that part looks great. I think this is just a situation where, um, well, I know that they had a budget in mind before they shot the movie or before the movie was even written. So, I mean,
Mm.
if you know how much money you're working with, it makes it a lot easier to write because like we mentioned with Undercard, I think Undercard could have benefited from more budget, but maybe they didn't have that, so they had to cut corners in certain ways. With Santa Zeta, they knew what their budget was before they even wrote the screenplay, so
Amazing.
it's not overly ambitious outside of what they're able to accomplish.
Excellent. Excellent, Eric. So final thought and rating on Santa Zeta. I know you already said it, but just for our listeners and watchers, if you could reiterate your rating.
That if this is not in my top five at the end of the year, this is going to be a great year. 6.9.
6.9 stars from Eric Holmes for Santa Zeta. And I think that's why Eric, out of me, Bruce, Eric, me, and Bruce, Eric is the one who is on the horn, even though he has a full-time job, two of them. He is on the horn regarding festival films. And I think, I'm putting words in his mouth. I think one of the things with him covering festival films that he puts a lot of time and work into watching the films, prepping for the interviews, doing the interviews. But Eric, I'm assuming one of the great things about you putting in all that time is you get to watch movies that we don't get to watch a lot of, like most people don't get to watch, and they end up sometimes being better than the movies we cover on a given week, Eric.
And in the case of Santa Zeta, again, Slam Dance Channel, this might be buried. Like this movie, there's a real chance that this movie could not be released. So
Wow.
it's playing on the Slam Dance Channel. Go watch it now because who knows? It might be your first and last chance to do so.
Okay, I think this is right now we're recording on Thursday, February 26th, but I think as of the first 2 months of the year, this is Eric's number one with a bullet recommendation so far in cinematics. This is a very, very top shelf film from Eric
Until
Holmes.
Project Hail Mary comes out, and then that'll probably overtake it. But
Okay, we'll see. That'll be a very interesting challenge. That is it for me and Eric Holmes for this section of cinematics. Whether you support, by the way, for ad-free cinematics, you can go become part of our Patreon community, $5 a month, catch all. You get a bonus episode for our Patreon episode. You get early access spoilers. You get also our undying thanks because we survive on, we don't technically survive on the Patreon, but we we get some monies for our cheese. We get the cheeseburger money for Patreon. So thank you, Patreon members. If you don't have the $5 and you don't support us by Patreon, support us on our CinemAddicts YouTube, because you can listen to CinemAddicts without all the ads on our YouTube channel. We upload our weekly CinemAddicts and Hodgepodge episodes on CinemAddicts on our CinemAddicts YouTube channel. Please subscribe and you can listen to it ad-free. For those who listen to us with ads on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, however, if you listen to our ads, thank you as well, because you guys are helping me, Bruce and Eric, and even Anderson Cowan. So however you support us on CinemAddicts, thank you so much. And hopefully we provide a weekly service that is value added to you. And I'm going to leave before we get to Bruce. Well, I'll mention here's Bruce Perky and CinemAddicts first, because here's Eric Holmes with some kind of outro before we get to Bruce. Yes, sir. What do you want to say, Eric?
Hey.
I think that's
See you next time.
See you next. Wolfman Jack. Yes, yes, sir. What?
1987 on Patreon. Go check that out if you're on the Patreon. If you're not, get on the Patreon. Go check that out. It's a good one. And not sure, but my friend Josh Lamb came with me and we recorded. It was kind of a two-parter because it was pretty long. But we went through the movies that came out in 1987 to find it the greatest movie from 1987. Unfortunately, it's not Dudes because we hadn't seen it at that point.
It's a two-parter, Eric Holmes and his very good friend and former podcast partner, Josh Lamb. I'll be uploading it on our CinemAddicts YouTube channel this weekend as well, all right? So, and hopefully, we never know, because I was telling him that Josh has a really good voice. Maybe down the road, Eric might be doing another podcast, and that would be...
Yeah, if you watch that and it's something you like, the sound's kind of wonky on that, but that can be fixed later on. But if something you like, let me know. Maybe we'll do more of them. Maybe it'll be a monthly thing. Who knows?
Oh, that'd be very, very good. Eric's doing a lot of work, and I wish, to be honest, Bruce Perky did a little bit more work on CinemAddicts. Unfortunately, we still have him under lock and chain over at the attic, and you can't do this much work because Bruce Perky, he has a family to raise, he has a loving wife, he has a full-time job.
Chained in an attic.
And he's also chained in an attic. So he might have 2 movie reviews, but remember, on Patreon, he's also doing Patreon. So he's doing a lot of work. For someone who is basically, he's still alive, right, Eric Holmes? You're keeping him half alive up in the attic? You don't know? Okay, so
later.
Okay, that's off the record. Okay, well, the good news is, hopefully, please go check on him before you go to work tonight and make sure he gets the water and the kibble, because we need...
Check when I get back home.
We need more reviews from Bruce Perky, but again, please, listeners, give Bruce Perky a lot of love, because he is in need of more kibble up in the attic. Eric's a very mean person, and I'm mean too, but thankfully, Bruce Perky is a really wonderful person, and he does very insightful reviews. And of course, here's Bruce Perky over at the Cinematic.
Welcome to the Cinematic, the attic of cinema, where I come down once a week and talk about the movies that I saw for you. Now, most weeks I have quite a few screeners. This week I have actually no screeners, but I do bring you a new, almost brand new movie, probably new for everybody, out in the non-festival circuit. If you're in the festival circuit, probably may have come across this movie, but otherwise you probably have no idea what this movie is, and that is a movie called Mistress Dispeller. And I also have a movie from 1987, and that is because this month is our Patreon. Well, this week is the week we talk about our Patreon episode, which is always about a different year, and this week it is about the year 1987. So for the main episode, which is this, Cinematic, I have the assigned pick from, Kayn Cunningham, it looks like, assigned Delirium, Photo of Goya, or if you're in America, Photo of Gloria. I was confused for a little while because the name in the movie is Gloria, but if you're watching the Italian version of it, I guess it's Goya. I was thinking it might be the artist Goya, but it's spelled different. Directed by Lamberto Bava. So what we do is we do one assigned pick in our main episode from that year, whatever it is, and then we do 2 from that year in the Patreon episode. Our Patreon episodes can include the Norman Jewison acclaimed movie Moonstruck, and also a movie by Penelope Spheris, which I don't think I'd ever even heard of, called Dudes. But for this particular episode that you're listening to right now, we are going to be doing Delirium, and we're going to be doing Mistress Dispeller. All right, let's get to it. First up, we have Mistress Dispeller. This is a documentary that I'm going to say is 2025, although it had a very limited release in 2020, maybe 2024. I mean, this is one of those movies that probably went to a whole bunch of different festivals, and for all intents and purposes, it's probably just came out 2 days ago because it's now dropped on the Criterion Channel. This is a Chinese documentary, so the likelihood that most Americans, hardly any Americans probably, have seen this movie or even aware of it. I was aware of it because of Spooky Astronauts. If you don't know Spooky Astronauts, that is the YouTube channel for Emma Wolf, if I remember her last name correctly. She is a really good reviewer on YouTube, one of my favorites, because she does go mostly horror-centric, but she always has a very interesting and really personal approach to the way she reviews movies. She doesn't just do the usual rote thing. So she had mentioned this as one of her favorite movies from last year that no one talked about, and she is definitely somebody who talks about movies that no one talks about a lot. So I appreciate that. So Mistress Dispeller, directed by Elizabeth Lowe, L-O, Elizabeth Lowe. There's a bunch of actual people's names in this. I'm not going to attempt all these Chinese names. Let's just call them by their roles in this movie. And that would be husband, wife, mistress, and Mistress Dispeller. Now you're like, what is this documentary, Bruce? Well, at the very beginning, there's a little set of captions that kind of describes the basic setup. And the idea is that I guess in China this is a thing. I don't know if it's true. I don't know how common it is. This is a movie that probably after you watch it, you're going to want to do some research. I did not do some research because I just watched it. But it's one that definitely could, could benefit from really going down a rabbit hole. But the idea is that essentially, kind of like you have matchmakers, even in America, you have matchmakers. You can pay someone professionally to help you find the love of your life. This is a service that you can pay to help you get rid of an affair in your life. So as this movie starts, we meet the wife, and she is very upset. Her husband has been going out a lot. And the husband and wife, by the way, are probably at about their late 40s, maybe 40s to 50s, in that range. She's probably in her 40s. Anyway, she's very upset. Her husband's going out all the time. He's gone all the time. She's, suspecting that he's probably had an affair. And in fact, at the beginning, she has evidence that she is 99% sure he's had an affair because she was near his phone one day and some texts came through. They weren't explicit texts, but they were things that let him know that the person on the other end was a woman, and the person on the other end was way too familiar with her husband in a way that made her think that combined with all of his late night absences with friends and or coworkers was probably an affair. And she is pretty angry about it. And she's felt like her relationship has been pretty much on the rocks anyway. So she goes to one of these Mistress Dispeller organizations, or whatever you want to call them, and you meet the main woman who is the Mistress Dispeller. And I guess the idea is that they would hire somebody to essentially infiltrate your life to break up and finish the affair. So it's a really unusual concept. I mean, like I said, I don't know if this is common at all in current Chinese society. It's nothing I've ever heard of, ever, in the world as being a thing. I mean, you've heard of people getting angry or like, having a family member, make sure that affair ends or whatever, but never like a professional service. And it's not even a service that you might expect. Like, it's not like they, just come in and confront people and make them leave. They insinuate themselves into your lives, pretending to be a member of your life, unbeknownst to everybody except the person who hired them, to basically kind of engineer the split up and the reunion of the split up of the affair and the reunion of the marriage relationship. So in this case, for example, you have the wife hiring them. So the wife knows. She's the only one that really knows who this person is. And this woman will pretend to be someone the wife knows. In this case, she pretends to be a friend of the wife from outside of an area where the husband would know this woman. And she basically comes in and will pretend to start having concern, and they engineer ways for her to have one-on-one conversations with the husband and essentially see if she can get out of him the truth about the affair. Now, on the other hand, eventually, this Mistress Dispeller may insinuate her life into the mistress's life too, as a different person. And in that case, she may be like a cousin of the wife. But there's a weird way where they'll never quite know that, the husband and the mistress never know at the same time, basically, that this woman is doing this. And they all think that this woman is just a part of the wife's life, that like an actual person. They don't think this is some like outside influence, even though she is an outside influence. Now, if that sounds really crazy and odd, it is pretty odd. It's pretty interesting. And it's one of those kind of documentaries where you say, like, how did they get the access? How did they do this? And this, okay, I almost have to give this 2 reviews. So the first main review is that whole setup is very interesting and fascinating. And just watching kind of a combination of modern Chinese society through this kind of very, microcosmic view. Now, I don't know how much that represents kind of normal, average, everyday Chinese society. I get the feeling that these, the maid, husband, and wife are fairly well off. Once again, being so far out of that society, I don't know how much, like I said, is just everyday life. But it is really interesting to kind of just get this view of Chinese life that you don't really get in most movies these days. Most movies are much more, entertainment focused and just kind of giving you broad, even if they're from Chinese cultural point of view, they're broad entertainment kind of movies. Whereas this is, like I said, where the backdrop here is specifically just the world they live in. And I think that alone is very interesting in this movie. The other aspect that's very interesting to me is just obviously the situation. That's fascinating, just to see the social construct and to see, how this kind of highly volatile situation might, just turn out. And I was always struck by the way that everyone kind of, I guess, interacted with each other. There's definitely a very philosophical kind of point of view that all these characters take, almost a psychological therapy point of view that everyone takes. Everyone's very grown up about all this. I mean, I was thinking about myself, like, what would this look like, this exact situation in middle America? And I can't imagine a lot of situations where someone isn't getting hurt or punched and screaming or throwing things out windows. I mean, I think a lot more would have happened. I guess there's an indication this could have happened here too, but everyone here seems so reasonable in a lot of ways. They are emotionally involved, but they seem so reasonable, like unnaturally reasonable. And that kind of brings me to our last question about this movie. So if all that stuff I just said sounds interesting and sounds like, wow, that sounds like a pretty unusual and cool and unique documentary, I would say it is. And in fact, probably my overall rating for it, because it's pretty subdued. Like I said, it doesn't have a lot of energy, but it has a lot of kind of intrigue. I think my overall, review or rating of it would probably be about 4 stars, except for one thing. I had a nagging feeling throughout this movie that a lot of it was staged, and I don't have proof. And I really, like I said, I kind of fell down on the job in some ways because I did not go and fully research this. But there's things about the way this is shot that made me really, really not understand how this could possibly be in an actual documentary. Now, this could be just because of the way it's presented. We only once, I think, get the wall broken where the people involved, address the cameras, address the elephant in the room, that is the camera crew. And it was very jarring to me because I'd gone the whole movie. And there's a scene right towards the end where a certain confrontation is happening, a really key confrontation. And the camera crew is addressed. And I was like, oh, that's what I've been missing in this movie. Because if that camera crew was addressed throughout the movie, or we were kind of seeing the behind the scenes as we were seeing the actual, kind of storyline, plot line developing in this, family drama, I think if we had seen kind of behind the scenes too, how the sausage is made, I feel like I would have accepted this much more, I guess, at face value. But because I didn't see all that stuff, there was things that I said just really felt staged or fake to me. And I'll give you a few examples. Things that seem really insignificant, but if you think of them from a filmmaking point of view, of a documentary filmmaking point of view, they really stand out to me. One was, we're watching these various people in their lives. And one point we see it's like morning and the person wakes up in bed and gets up out of bed. And I'm thinking to myself, like, so the documentary film crew was just there with him all night, or just there with him, came in and hung out in the morning, filming next to the bed, waiting for them to wake up? There's another scene earlier on in the movie where the husband and wife are kind of having an argument over this whole situation really early on. And the shots are really good, like really well framed, like from a filmmaker's point of view. But throughout this kind of conversation where it seems like it's going in real time, we have multiple shots that are really, really well staged and framed from different angles. And I'm thinking to myself, like, well, do they have more than one camera? And if they're doing this with the same camera, just a single camera in a documentary, like, how are they getting repositioned and getting these shots and just happening to catch these moments? Maybe they could be really lucky and they just cut out the in-between shots where they're moving and repositioning. Or maybe they're having people this is the staged part, redo those moments. And I kind of wondered about that. And once again, there's one other really big piece, right? The biggest problem I had with it was the whole concept of the Mistress Dispeller is that she is secretly becoming a part of these lives. And one thing I really, really needed to know was, what do our characters who don't know about the Mistress Dispeller think is happening with this camera crew? Because you have a husband who, at the beginning of the movie, doesn't know he's been found out. We have a mistress who definitely doesn't know that any of this is going on. So how are they explaining to them that there's these cameras there filming just supposedly normal life? We're not given really, unless I missed it at the beginning caption, which is thoroughly possible. And if I did, hey guys, ignore everything I said about this part of the movie. But my question would be this. What do these people think is a reason that cameras are following them on their everyday life when nothing unusual is supposed to be happening? And that's, again, a little thing would have helped. It was just like, if the wife, I don't know, she was a famous author and she had a film crew with her to document her life while she writes her new novel. And that was the reason the camera crew was there for everybody else who doesn't know what's really going on. That would have been a way to explain it if that were the case. But I don't think there's anything indicating that throughout. So what do the other people think? Because that really changes the whole conceit of the movie, right? The whole conceit of the movie is this is all really happening. This is actual life. And what a crazy kind of interesting, unique, like, view of relationships this is giving us. But the people aren't weirded out by the fact that there's random cameras following them while they're talking about these highly volatile and secretive moments in their lives, which an affair is bound to be. So I have some real like core questions about the veracity of this as a documentary. Now, if I don't believe it's a true documentary and it's trying to pull the wool over our eyes to some degree, I still think it's a worthwhile watch. If, like I said before, if I fully believe it and it's actually what it's says it is, and I just don't know how they got it to that point, well, then I would really be impressed by it. And I would give it probably like 4 stars, like I said. I think I'm going to go 3 stars because of what I feel like might be the truth here, which is that it's not true. So I'm going to go 3 stars for Mistress Dispeller. I definitely think it's worthwhile watch, especially if you're a fan of unusual documentaries. And I would love to get other people's takes on the truthfulness of this, or how much you think it may or may not be staged. And hey, if, like I said, if I was the dummy that just didn't notice that they told me, like I was going to go back and rewatch the beginning, the little caption section, just to see if I missed something, but I swear I didn't. So yeah, if I'm the dummy that didn't get it, or you know some more inside information from your research that I didn't get about how they made this happen, then, you know, enlighten me and I'll raise my score. But otherwise, I'm going to go 3 stars for Mistress Dispeller. Still a worthwhile watch, though. All right. Mistress Dispeller, once again, is on Criterion Channel, and it just got dropped on the 24th of February this year, if you're watching this year. Okay, the other movie I've got, once again, from 1987. This is a Lamberto Bava movie, Delirium, Photo of Goya. Now, once again, I don't think I've ever heard of this movie. Once again, Lamberto Bava has made a ton of kind of cheesy B-grade Italian horror movies from the 80s. If I remember correctly, well, once again, the claim to fame of Lamberto Bava, first of all, is being the son of Mario Bava, the king of, I don't know if he's the king of Italian horror, but he's definitely pretty high up there. He's in the pantheon of Italian horror masters, along with Argento and maybe Fulci, depending on who you like to pick. I would say definitely Argento and Bava are like at least 2 of the top, 3 or 4. Bava, of course, credited with kind of starting the Giallo craze. Argento really kicking it off, but Bava really kind of got the ball rolling in the very lurid, kind of these lurid, complicated, twisty murder thrillers with very saturated, bold color choices. That was really followed through with some of the stuff that Argento did, but Bava really did it earlier with Blood and Black Lace, one of my personal favorites. He also did, of course, Black Sunday, Black Sabbath, a lot of black in these titles. He did some other weird things like Danger Diabolique, and what's the other, a couple other ones. Well, Planet of the Vampires is a personal favorite of mine too. It's just kind of a crazy sci-fi horror from that era. But Lamberto Bava, as far as I know, is most known for, I think, Demons, because I know Demons got a U.S. release and kind of was right there in that kind of 80s horror craze and got a lot of hype as well. In fact, I think I might have seen Demons in the theater, and I was underwhelmed by it. And I was into horror, really into horror in the 80s especially, and looking for all the crazy gore and weirdo effects and just all the stuff you could find. So I was pretty steeped in it. And for me, there's something about Demons didn't quite work. And Italian movies can always be a hit or miss. If you're not used to Italian movies, especially Italian horror, there's a few things that you have to kind of take for granted. One is, and especially Giallo. So let's talk about Giallo. What do you want from a Giallo movie? First of all, plot. Plot is usually going to be convoluted, preposterous. It may not make any sense. And that's kind of the given. That's kind of the starting point for Giallo. Now, in a really good Giallo, you should feel at the end when the murderer is revealed, like it was in plain sight. You could have figured it out if you really tried. Now, are you going to really try in a lot of these movies? No, because the plots are, like I said, preposterous. They're ridiculous. They just don't make a lot of sense. So in a really good Giallo, you probably still will have a plot that is like that. So what do you really want from a Giallo? Usually it's going to be very like hyper stylized, weirdo music scores, very lurid and creative murders and death scenes. So in some ways they're kind of also proto slashers. Oh, that's it, because Mario Bava was a proto slasher movie too. He did a Twitch of the Death Nerve, aka Blood Lake, or Bay of Blood. That's what it was. Bay of Blood and Twitch of the Death Nerve are the same movie. So you expect those things, hyper gore, very stylized, really creative and memorable death scenes. So with that in mind, where does Delirium stand on the Giallo scale? You got to also keep in mind that the heyday, the peak of Giallo was really the 70s. I think the 70s is where Giallo was like at its top, tippy top. Late 60s there was some for sure. 70s it was just rocking and rolling, and by the 80s it was kind of on its downslide because a lot of the masters now are kind of moving on, or horror was kind of moving on in general to much more. There was kind of a combination of slasher and supernatural stuff going on in the 80s that was much bigger than Giallo. And in fact, what Demons was, I think, Lamberto Bava's first movie, or the first one that really got him a lot of notoriety, wasn't Giallo at all. It was just a horror movie with a bunch of people and demons in a theater kind of a thing. A lot of gooey blood and horror and gore. This one, by the way, stars some few names that I didn't know, but I'll give them to you. You've got Mark, who is like the creepy neighbor, Carl Zinni. You have Gloria, or Goya, the main character here, played by Serena Grandi. And you've got Tony, played by Vanni Corbellini. He's like a photographer, and then you got a bunch of other people in here too. But there's a few of the characters. Our main character, like I said, is Gloria. That's the main one. What is she? This is once again getting the plot, which is always ridiculous, so you don't want to go too far in the plot. The basic plot is she's like the head of this magazine, very much like a Playboy penthouse style of magazine. Lots of nudity and stuff. And there's some kind of a subplot about them wanting to sell or get rid of the magazine or whatever. And then she's got some kind of a subplot about how she had taken nude photos in her past, but now she wants to be taken seriously as this businesswoman. And those photos may or may not come out. And all this doesn't really matter. It's just people are going to get killed. So does it work as a good Giallo? Sorry, my big old dog just came in. I guess she's going to hang out here with us. Does it work as a good Giallo? I would say no. Now, why? Because, first of all, I don't know. There's a lot of things about this movie that doesn't work for me. It isn't very stylish in the sense of Giallo kind of movies. I guess it's way more of an 80s kind of a movie in style, like that very much like that 80s fashion, and is kind of a synthy score and just these settings that are very like, I don't know, like if you've seen Manhunter, like a much more like downgrade version of Manhunter kind of scenes and settings. Now, if you really are into the kind of the throwback nostalgia of 80s cheese, then you might get a fair amount of appeal from this movie. I lived it. I don't necessarily get a bunch of appeal of just being in the 80s, so that didn't work much for me. It was also much sleazier than most Giallos tend to be. Giallos always have a level of sexuality and like, murdering beautiful women in various states of undress. That's kind of a thing, of course. But this movie was just so gratuitous. Like at one point I wanted to write down, like, this is like gratuity, the movie, gratuitous nudity, the movie. It was just like everywhere you turned, it was like, well, I guess she's going to take her shirt off now. It's like, so if that's your thing, hey, maybe this movie is just right up your alley. But I was just watching it going like, why? I mean, it doesn't offend me, but it also wasn't doing anything for the movie. It just made it even more cheesy, very much cheesy. And then the last thing, which is what you really need, is like some really good creative murders. And I thought at the beginning, like, oh, this is going to be a super weirdo movie. This is going to be great. Because in the very first scene, you have a woman, there's been a photo shoot, and then a person's leaving for the night from this very fancy 80s style kind of, I don't want to say it's a mansion, but it's a very big house with a pool and everything. And you get the woman who is visiting, leaving the house of Gloria. And while she's leaving, there's just a random thing where she's walking away, this beautiful Italian woman, and all of a sudden her head is a giant eyeball. And you're like, what, Bruce? A giant eyeball? Yeah, it's like they have this giant prosthetic mask just appear on her face, like she's turned into a giant eyeball person. And you're like, why is this? And I guess what's supposed to be happening is that the killer who is watching her is having quote unquote delirium, and is like, I guess I don't know, having hallucinations that these women are turning into monsters and therefore he's killing them. That's just me trying to explain what I saw on screen because it didn't make sense to me. And I thought, wow, that is super weird. What is happening? And of course she gets killed. But the problem is there's really only about 2, maybe 3 kind of murder set pieces here, and they're not very interesting. Like the first one, like I just told you, that eyeball thing, that sounds really weird and interesting for sure. But then she just gets killed with a pitchfork. I mean, I would say the second murder is probably the most interesting. And that one, the woman's head turns into like a giant insect, probably a bee, because she gets killed by a bunch of bees. Like the killer just brings bees with him and has this whole thing where he releases bees on her and like puts this fluid on her that's supposed to attract the bees, and the bees sting her to death. Once again, I guess that's kind of weird and interesting, but go watch The Abominable Dr. Phibes. You want to see some really creative kills involving insects and stuff, and that was done, 15 years earlier, and much more creatively. So that was kind of a drawback. There are not very many interesting characters either. Gloria is very boring. All the characters are pretty much just stock, somewhat attractive Italian people. The only character that's really kind of fits in that kind of giallo weirdness is there's a neighbor guy who's in a wheelchair, and he's constantly spying on Gloria's house. And you think like, oh, he's spying on her with a telescope and stuff, but it's not like he's far away. She's got this huge house, like I said, a pool and everything. It's just a really big house, but it seems like his bedroom window from his big house is just like 10 feet from her property line or something. It's very close. He's like, you just look out the window and see her just as well almost. But he has his, telescope out there, and he's constantly calling her with obscene phone calls and saying that he needs to get together with her and stuff. So of course they're setting him up as a huge like red herring killer. But even the fact that he's there and he's part of her life is just weird, and a weird element to add to it, which doesn't really ever go anywhere. But I welcomed it as a truly interesting, like weirdo subplot that you would get in a giallo movie. So I did appreciate that guy's character. But yeah, there's 2 or 3 murders really forgettable, except for the weird masks that they end up having, which are supposed to be their heads changing in the guy's eye point of view, I guess. And then it just kind of ends. So I was very, very underwhelmed and not enjoying my time with Delirium, what is it again? The Photo of Goya. Once again, I appreciate Kayn Cunningham. I love it when he suggests something weird I've never heard of. I do always like that, but I did not like my experience watching this. It was a slog for me. And I've watched a lot of horror movies. I watch a lot of horror movies that are not that great, and I still make it through to the end. And this was one where I just wanted to stop. I didn't want to even finish watching it. So I'm going to go 1 star. It's a bad, it's a bad version of giallo. It doesn't have good kills. It isn't very stylish. And even the convoluted plot isn't interesting enough to remember any part of it. So, and it doesn't even look that good. It's not even shot well. So Delirium's 1 star for me. Don't go and watch it unless you are an absolute giallo completist or an absolute Lamberto Bava completist. And that is all I have for this cinematic. Once again, we do have our usual monthly Patreon episode where we talk about 2 more movies from 1987. That is Moonstruck, and that is Dudes. So if you have not had enough 87 in your earballs or your eye holes, then get over to Patreon and check those out. Thanks everybody for listening, and guys.